So we
The
got the six
line.
lines, which goes back to the Chinese I Ching, where you have the trigrams, which is the 3 lines, and then the hexagrams refers to the 6 lines.
Do we want to say anything about that Chinese I Ching before we move on?
I don't know. Do you know anything that's worth sharing to the
Well,
audience?
well, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Just that. Please keep track of the fact that there's some kind of magic going on here because this information from this I Ching is 5,400 years ago. What are they doing describing our genetic ways?
Hmm.
When, as far as I'm aware, which obviously I'm not aware of something because maybe they had microscopes back then and read our code out, or it was a download, or who knows?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting too because it's like you take like the I Ching, that take the hexagrams, right? And like that solid line is that masculine line, right? That's the electricity, right? Like that
Mhm.
is the force that is going in a straight line in one direction, right? Like sperm and the egg. The masculine solid line is that sperm going in a straight line for its target. The
Quite
open line,
literal.
that broken line, yeah, it's magnetic, it's receptive. The egg's just hanging out. You come to me. And so
It's a
you
good
take.
word, magnetic. It
Right,
is.
right. So it's the
Yep.
electromagnetic, right? Like it's a battery. You got the plus side and you got the minus side, and you put in the battery backwards, it doesn't work. Right. So like understanding it from that level, and then you can take that further into like the ones and the zeros within the binary code. And so you can
We're
go through from the I Ching into the binary code into amino acids and like our entire chemical building block. And it's like, okay, wow, guys, like we went really detailed with all of
It's
this.
well worth pointing out because it also showed up in our electrical code, as well because, DC, that direct current never quite worked out. It was sorta one thing. It just wasn't gonna do
It
the
needs to
deed.
the
We needed
alternating.
alternating current, and that is straight up positive, negative, positive, negative. That's an alternating
Yeah.
current
The dance
'cause
between the two.
so it's back to ones and zeros. It's amazing how we've copied ourselves and not realized it, Why not choose trinary for computer code, right?
Yeah.
Why not? Just apparently it wasn't in
Like,
the
there's
cards.
something that is core into that. So, yeah, the
Yeah,
6 lines, let's dive into it.
yeah,
So, the 6 lines of the hexagram, so oftentimes you'll hear these 6 lines referred to as a house. So, the
mhm,
first line of the house is like the foundation of the house, right? The first line is looking for the insecurity. It's for the security because it feels insecure, so it wants foundation. Hey, what's going on here, right? The second line is on the first floor, like with the windows open, the curtains are open, and they're like hanging out, painting, doing their thing, being this brilliant artist, hermiting away, not realizing that everyone's like looking at them and going, wow, you're so amazing. You know how to do these things. And then they get called out.
not knowing that they're amazing
Oh,
themselves.
yeah, and I've literally caught my boyfriend like this, where, like, he is a, 2'5", and I caught him, like, in his little art studio, and, like, the curtain's drawn, and I could, like, look through the window, and I'm like, "Wow, look at him go."
Look at the little 2-5 go, it's just
Yeah.
so good, right? And had you knocked on the door and interrupted, you'd have interrupted like God knows what.
Oh, yeah, and the things he learns when he just, like, his sacral responds, and he's meant to go learn, and he'll just, like, hermit away and become an expert on things, like, it's great. So, second
Love that.
line, right? So, third line is basically tripping up the stairs, as I like to think of it, because the third line is starting to go up towards the second floor, and they're trying something new, and they might trip and fall, and like we're gonna learn which stairs work and which stairs don't.
Yep, and it's important to point out it's also because the 3rd line of the bottom trigram is the first line to get a real sense that there's something on the other side, that they might have a transpersonal nature in some way, but they still don't
Mhm.
know. They're still
They're like
self-absorbed,
curious about it.
more so than the other 2, than the 1st and the 2nd.
Yeah, they're just very like first floor in that own like more
Yep.
self-absorbed kind of world.
It's like, "What? There's something else?" Right, and the 3rd line is, "Yeah, there's something else. I keep bumping into it."
Yeah. Fourth line is looking out from like a bedroom window, like looking out for all their friends to like say hello to and interact with. The fifth
So
line, oh,
yep.
dear. The fifth line is what in the master bedroom with the lights off and like the windows, like the curtains drawn, but like peering out into the world, like what's going on out there, but like don't leave me alone.
With a
I'm fine.
projection field from down below looking up saying, "We know there's something in there. What is it?"
Oh, that's a good one. I've not thought of
Yep.
that.
That's cool, and they all are like and each one of them individually has their own little hopes and dreams that they're sort of pouring into that expectation that they throw onto the 5th line.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the fifth line's a trip. We'll get into it. And then finally, the sixth line is up on the roof, aloof and on the roof. The sixth line, they have like this triphasic life cycle where for the first 30 years until their Saturn return, they're in this third line phase, right? So they're in this subjective bumping into the world, seeing what works, what doesn't. And then from 30 to 50, from the Saturn return to the Chiron return, they go up on the roof to like hang out, get away from everything, and like integrate all that they've bumped into. And then after Chiron return, after like 50, then they'll come back down off the roof to like just exemplify as a role model.
That tripart lifetime, we're all on a six-line process. The sixth line brings us all onto the process because a unique thing happens. Yes, the hexagram is 6 lines, but the top of the hexagram is not the sixth line. It's really the fifth line, at least for us here in humanity. Basically, it's the fifth line. The fifth line is what everyone wants the culmination of the line to be.
Yeah.
The first line is that foundation. The sixth line is already heading out the door. It's technically not in the house.
Oh yeah, it's already like going towards the next gate.
Yes, yes,
That
and if you wanna
transitional.
see in the first 5 lines of a hexagram, if you wanna see what they're all about, you read up through the lines with the foundation first and see the circuitry and all that good stuff. When you wanna know what the sixth line is into, you can do all of that stuff, but add in one more thing. Go to the first line of the next hexagram in the wheel, and you'll see what is blending the 6 lines true, je ne sais quoi, what is the thing with this sixth line? And so that's why it's not really part of the hexagram as it relates to, where the hexagram sort of ends energetically. One last thing, let me just keynote these. So we're going to keynote these through, and we'll see that in the slide, but just for the sake of creating repetition in honor of gate 9 and gate 16, 1 is keynoted with introspection. 2 is keynoted with projection, projecting out, not knowing. 3 is called adaption, trial and error and adapting to the trial and error. And I'll add in another, sustainment, but it's all couched in adaption. Fourth line is externalizing, because whatever was inside from the first line is in harmony to the fourth line, and the fourth line imbues out into the world the quality of the first line of that hexagram, whether they have a first line or not. Um, and so they just need to talk. They're externalizing. Fixedness is another word for it, and opportunist. Fifth line is this not it's more than external. Externalizing is to your network for the fourth line, but for the fifth line, it's universalization to a complete stranger. These people are the biggest strangers of consequence, and the projection is sort of on them. Whereas the second line projects out, not even knowing. The fifth line is receiving the projection of others onto it because it sends out basically a welcome sign for it because of its fifth line, and it's keynoted with universalization. It's keynoted with practicalness. It's also keynoted with, at times, the heretic, because it must bring a change sometimes. And then the sixth line is keynoted with transition. It is the role model, and you can also, it's aloof. You can put aloof to it. Aloof, the role model, transitioning, because it's really encompassing everything. So,
Good stuff. Thank you.
good. I'm not going to repeat all that.
Yeah, I mean, that's so much of it with human design is just, and that's why Rock created the keynotes as he did, right? It's like,
Yeah,
here's a little nugget so you can like get some information and then you keep deepening your understanding of whatever that is. And like, I'll hear the same thing a million times and then I'll hear something that is just like, oh, that rubs me a little different. Or maybe I heard the same thing, but I was in a different place. So I heard it differently. And then I hear the
right.
same thing again and it just gives like a deeper understanding, like that, like never ending onion
It's
kind of
that
thing.
enthusiastic repetition. You don't need to have 16 or 9 in your body graph. It's in the world. You've lived it many times. If your strategy lights your body up and your chemistry gives you energy, boom, you're enthusiastic, you know, which is, just ultimately nice to see.